Wonderful moment. How to win it, I couldn't care less. That was the way it was going to be, and that is the way it happened. And that is the way I think all Coventry fans will remember the moment in time that FA Cup was coming up the M1 back to Coventry.
Before in Coventry's history, and that's it! It's Coventry City's first major trophy in 104 years, and Tottenham Hotspur have been beaten in an FA Cup final for the very first time.
I actually remember the final whistle. I remember the final whistle because we were under the cosh a little bit, hanging on just right at the end of the game, and I can remember the final whistle going, and I can remember just looking up into the blue sky and thinking, flipping heck, I've just won the FA Cup here.
The win was massive.
Tremendous, unexpected.
Oh, it was massive.
I think it was huge.
Absolutely massive. It was magnificent.
Oh, it was massive.
Oh, it was immense, wasn't it?
I remember that the cat was sat on my dad's lap and my dad leapt up in the air when goal was scored and the cat sort of went flying across the room.
And we were all hugging and kissing, crying. Everybody was, you know, it was lovely.
I actually leapt up in the air and came down on the steps with such a jar, smashed one of my molars.
And when we actually won, I must admit it's probably the first time I've cried for absolutely years.
It's the realisation of your dreams. I mean, I used to watch all the cup finals as a kid, just wondering and dreaming and thinking, what must it be like to be playing in a Wembley Cup final? You know, what must it be like when you walk those steps and, you know, you lift the cup? I mean, it's what dreams are made of.
You feel happy for your fans, especially your family, your mum and dad. You've achieved something and that's what you want to do in life.
What a proud moment for this Midlands club. The Sky Blues are sky high.
Kilcline, I'm watching them all go up to get their medals and the cup. And when he brought the cup down, he brought it to me and said, "Is this what you really wanted? Is this what we've had to work so hard for you basket?" He said, "Well, here it is, pal, well done." And he handed me the FA Cup. And that was a moment that you'll never forget, you know. From there on in, a bit of a blur, I've got to be truthful. Hugging and kissing and messing about and kicking and running round and photos everybody wanted.
It's everybody's dream, every lad's dream to be at a FA Cup final, and to win it is absolutely marvellous. And I just couldn't believe it that we'd actually won the cup.
I think you'll find that Greavesy tipped Tottenham, which I'd threatened him I'd kill him if he didn't. In any team he tipped, we beat, so that was handy. We had the cup, and George and I are looking up, and I see Greavesy up in the box, who'd been commentating, and I went with the cup, that's where that fell, and I'm drinking it. I said, "Jimmy, you won't be able to do it, but I'm going to be drinking out of this tonight," you know. And Greavesy just was so thrilled for us. He really wanted us to win all along. And well done, my son, he shouted back.
As soon as the whistle blew and we'd won, and we'd watched them get in the cup, everybody was out on the streets. It was just cars going up, flags flying, motorbikes up and down the road.
I mean, you only had to look at the cars driving around with the sky blue ribbons fluttering from the aerials. It just caught the imagination of the city.
All the police cars and all the ambulances and everything going around the city actually had sky blue balloons hanging off them.
I remember the fountain in town being dyed blue.
And I seen one dolly bird in a bikini, sky blue bikini, strapped to the front of a car going round past Lady Godiva several times.
And I remember seeing a dog with a Coventry City scarf on.
And now we're going out in the streets and we're going to find some Sky Blue supporters.
Microphone, we won!
We won, and it's
Does this kids go on tape?
Yes, it does. Very nice, thank you. George and John, Sky Blue Army, George and John, Sky Blue Army, George and John.
We got a great big silver cup under the eaves. We'd been down to a well-known supermarket that had blue and white stripes on their bags, and I'd made yards and yards and yards of bunting that went down from the house, from us to the neighbours' windows. Oh, it was magic. Balloons everywhere. Then back at the motorway, we were on the coach, no drink. George forgot to put the drink on. And we didn't mind. That was the way I wanted it, really, because it was sensible.
looking at all the fans.
The nearer we got to Coventry, nearly all the bridges had people standing on them with flags and banners and waving and shouting. And
well, brilliant. It took me a bit of time to get back because I was on the train, but when you got off at the station, it was just electric.
As the train came into the station at Coventry, the noise was just deafening.
I was on the buses and everybody in Stanton Road and Walsgrave Road, they were all out in the streets waving to us and clapping to us.
Coming back into Coventry, we got greeted with champagne, everything. We're running off the coach, having a drink, going back on. I'll never forget it, never.
We just got so carried away with it all that, like one of my mates said, you drive, I want to sit in the back and this and that. And there's about 3 or 4 of us sat on the roof, and the roof on the car went, big dent in the roof, and it absolutely wrecked the roof, and we were jumping up and down. And I'll tell you what, I didn't care, it was well worth it.
Well, I managed to get somehow back to Warwickshire, but I was sort of too drunk to remember.
I got the roof fixed in the end on the car. What we had to do is cut it out and put a sunroof in.
Yeah, right. Well, we opened a bottle of champagne.
You could hardly get into a pub to get served because it was that busy. You know, people were passing drinks out from the front to people that couldn't get in. And I must have had 5 or 6 free drinks that way. You know, to go into a pub, couldn't get in, and here you are, mate. Have this.
I can't remember all of it because I ended up at the Binley Club. Car stayed at home. I nearly stayed at the Binley Club.
Coming up the motorway where we couldn't come back into Coventry. The police wouldn't allow us to do that, so we had booked a hotel, Browns-Over Hall, Rugby, on the outskirts of Rugby, who only had 1 booking for that night, but they were a honeymoon couple, and we wrote and said, look, we'll pay for any hotel for you to go to, and they didn't want to. And they must have had the most unusual honeymoon of any couple ever, I would have thought, celebrating with the cup final side. And they had the Times, they still write Christmas cards to me, you know, saying how wonderful that was, that moment in their time, which was good for them. But it was lovely celebrations.
And everybody was just happy. There's not many times in your life when you can look back and say, well, we were all just happy, and everybody was, you know.
The next day, we got up and it was overcast and it was drizzling, and I thought, oh God, I hope there's people in town that are going to be there.
It's the first time in 104 years that Coventry's football club has won a major trophy. This afternoon, the city determined to savour its moment of glory. The police estimated the crowd at 250,000. They conceded that was probably a conservative guess. It took the players...
Bringing a cup back home on the Sunday, we just couldn't believe the amount of people. We didn't think Coventry had that many supporters, because everywhere, all the streets that you went down were full of fans, and it just showed how much it meant to them.
I followed the bus all the way through, from Walsgrave all the way into Coventry City Centre.
The Coventry bus, the bus with all the players on, actually started at the hospital because Steve Ogrizovich's wife, I understand, was in just having had a baby.
I said, right, we'll take a little trip in the open bus so your wife and all the hospital can see the FA Cup, and we deviated round to Walsgrave Hospital.
That was a good opportunity for people who couldn't, get out onto the streets, who could probably only watch it on TV to be able to see the cup being paraded, and it was a chance for Rachel, if she knew anything about it being 2 days old, to know that we were there.
I took my son down to Corporation Street and to watch the bus come through and all the celebrations. Absolutely tremendous.
There was the bus all going down Gosford Street and the open top bus with the cup on it. That was brilliant. I remember all that, really good.
It was throwing it down the rain, and all the kids from around the area came and stood on the corner, and they were all on our wall because the buses were coming past. And they were about 4 deep, and my brother-in-law, I've got a picture of him here, on some step ladders on our lawn, to try and take photos, and we were laughing because the step ladder was slowly sinking into the lawn.
All the way into the council house, the streets, unbelievable reception. We just couldn't believe what we were seeing. There were so many people. You know, and all in sky blue, and all the fountain was in sky blue. Everything about the city was sky blue.
And we managed to get a place round by front of the council house where they were going to do the speeches afterwards. I said, we'll stay here so we can see the speeches. And we must have stood there about 5.5 hours in the drizzle, in the rain, because it took them so long to come round the city centre. I think it took them about 3.5 hours when it would normally take about an hour, because there was like 300,000 people in the city centre all witnessing this great event.
You know, I don't know, most of the city came out to see us back on that day, and it certainly appeared that way because, you know, it was a great homecoming.
Must have been where we were, that we just couldn't see any. They were hanging off lampposts on top of sort of post boxes, off balconies. You know, just unbelievable. Out of trees. I've never seen anything like it.
I remember all the players looking up at us, and I remember distinctly Brian Kilcline, that was it. He looked up at me and he was like that, and he was clapping and said to all the players, look at them, look at them. And I'm going, yeah, come on.
So we're with a massive crowd of people in Broadgate. There was a really, really big crush. I think somebody actually lifted my sister up on their shoulders in the end because she was a bit small. She was getting a bit squashed, and to be honest, she's never been quite the same since. She's not so good with crowds now.
You can't describe how many people were there but how happy they were. That's what's the main thing, and how happy it was for the community in the city of Coventry.
The main recollection from that was a lady with a disabled son who somehow had managed to get into the council house, even though it was supposed to be totally, you know, closed off to the public. And this disabled lad, his hero was Cyril Regis. So I went in to see Big Cyril and asked him if he would come out and see this lad. And when he did, you know, the smile on that disabled lad's face, that will live with me forever.
The celebrations in this city went on late into last night. They'll be continuing for many hours yet this evening.
It just meant so much to the city, didn't it? And we felt proud that we'd actually gone to Wembley, brought the cup back, and we could show it off to all the fans and make them proud. Because I know it did make the city for months on end. It was a changed city. No, it brought a lot to the city and a lot of closeness.
We just lived off it for weeks and months afterwards, even if you weren't a Coventry City supporter. There was a pleasure in actually raising the mood of everyone.
Well, I think in you know, people always say, what does sport do to a city, or what does it do to and I do think it's given Coventry an identity in the football world. I mean, they'll always remember that day. You know, it's down in history.
It put us on the football map. We've been underachievers for decades, even though we were in the top league in the country, still underachieved, and it gave everybody a lift in the city as well. So what more could you ask for?
It was probably the biggest achievement, not only for this club, but for the underdog.
We've never been a really top flight club. We've almost, at that stage, we were sort of a getting there, but never really there, whereas this was a huge boost.
It was such a great time at the club. The FA Youth Cup, I mean, massive for the under-18 youth team, the kids. And Coventry City youth team won the FA Youth Cup that year, so a heck of an achievement. You know, the whole scouting system was brilliant, the whole club, wonderful time.
Well, it was a good money earner for the club. It was a good money spinner. You know, we were in the black, which was unbelievable. They said, what difference would it make to you? And I said, well, I can now shop at Harrods instead of Woolworths.
It had an effect. I mean, I've worked in Coventry all my life, and I've supported Coventry all my life. And it is a strange phenomenon how a football team in any part of the country can affect the local area, whether it be in work or just people's attitudes who don't even follow football.
I bet if you ask anyone in the city, I bet your business was booming them days because everyone's on a high.
They reckon the work rate improved unbelievably in the factories. Peugeot especially, you know, they said it made a ton of difference to them. How people were on time and wanted to get into work and wanted to talk about it. And the conversation all the way through, you know, was football, football, football.
It brought the whole city together as one. All the races, all the colours, all the religions. It was just one Coventry. People said it was like the end of the war when everybody gathered in Broadgate. But other people said it was better than that because there was sadness at the end of the war. But with this, everybody was happy. People that had been through the war, said this was one of the greatest days in Coventry's history on that Sunday.